All right, welcome to another SEC baseball preview by Southern Sports Gumbo. We're going to be diving into the Mississippi State Bulldogs today. So get us started, Kevin.
All right, so Mississippi State's coming off a couple seasons that didn't necessarily meet what they want to be in college baseball. If you look at Mississippi State traditionally, I feel like they're in the top 3 to 4 teams in the SEC. If you look at the past, 30, 40 years of baseball. And as far as their home field, where they play, they may have the best home field advantage and fan base in the SEC. And that's, look, there's some really good fan bases when it comes to baseball in the SEC. But I really do think that theirs is about as good as it gets. So they made a coaching change, I guess is where I'm getting at in the offseason. And Brian O'Connor's coming over from Virginia, and he had really good success at Virginia. He's a good coach. He brought a lot of guys with him from Virginia and in the portal. And I look at, preseason, a lot of places have him ranked in the top 10. Baseball America has them, actually top five. I believe D1 Baseball has them, in the bottom half of the top 10. And when you look at their lineup and you go position by position, they're actually pretty good, and they have a lot of depth. And so to kind of get into that part, Ace Reese they bring with strengths that they bring back. Ace Reese, third baseman, preseason All American, and really really good player. Hit over 20 home runs last year. You can pencil him in at third, and preseason All SEC, and most likely to hit over 20 home runs again. So they got him at third. Blake Bevis would be the other corner of the infield. He's coming over from Virginia, and he's first baseman, solid, really good player. Had a good year for Virginia last year. Garrett Free is kind of the person that they pencil in at second base right now. He last year he played in several positions. He's a transfer from 2 years ago. I believe it was Sanford where he came from. Really hits the ball well. Can play outfield. Can play third base. Can play shortstop, second, and I think they're penciling him in as a second baseman. He hit over 300 last year. So again, I like the what he has there. So when you take those three guys in their infield, they're likely to hit over all three of those guys likely to hit over 300 if they continue what they've done in the past. Shortstop is kind of a two-person battle. You have Drew Wires, who's a transfer, and then Ryder Woodson, who is a transfer from North Carolina State. Both of them came over in the portal. Wires has a little more offense and can play third base too. Where Woodson is, he didn't play but in like 10 games last year. He did hit over 300 in the 10 games that he played. He just doesn't, have the power that Wires would have. So they'll battle it out for the shortstop position um, to see, who starts there. Outfield is pretty full. They have Vitus, but Valencias. Let me try to get that pronounced correctly. James Nunnally, who came over from Virginia. Nunnally's more of a contact hitter. Uh, then they have Noah Sullivan, Aiden Teal. Aiden Teal is another transfer that probably their most talented outfielder. And then they have Bryce Chance, who's been there at Mississippi State for 2 years. So you got five outfielders, and Sullivan will probably end up being the DH. But any of those five could play in the outfield, and any of those five could end up as the DH. So when you look at their outfield, their infield, I feel like they have a pretty deep lineup and that they can hit the ball well and a good mix between power when you bring Reese, Bevis, Teal into that power situation, and then guys that have, that can hit for out average. So I like what they have in their everyday lineup. I think it's one of the stronger everyday lineups in the SEC. Pitching wise, again, to me, they have a lot of depth there too. You have uh, Ryan McPherson, who could end up being the one. Thomas Valencias, who could also be the one. Tyler Pitzer, who came over from South Carolina, could mix into that. Could also come out of the bullpen. Duke Stone, Jackson Logan, Pitzer, Stone, Logan could all be guys that both start and come out of the bullpen. And then another guy that they've got that I think is really interesting is Jack Bauer, he's a freshman that last year hit 100 miles an hour on the gun, and even in high school. So he's a left-hander, and again, most likely could come out of the bullpen for them this year. Might end up being a starter, but with the depth that they've got starting elsewhere, um, you know, probably will end up a bullpen guy, but could really be an interesting shutdown guy. Considering the fact that he can hit 100 miles an hour, and he can basically, if he comes in relief, he can just air it out and throw. So that's kind of my outlook, with him. I think Mississippi State is a team that I see them being able to, finish in the top, definitely in the top 6 in the SEC, maybe in the top 2 or 3, is where I would put them. I think they've got a strong team this year. O'Connor's a good coach, been in the College World Series several times, so he's gonna bring stability in that, and again, their home field. I really like this team. I think they're gonna perform well. I think they're gonna be, and again, that top group. You finish in the top 4 in the SEC, you get a bye in the SEC tournament, and you really put you in a better place to advance in that SEC tournament. And again, if you finish in the top 4, you're going to be a number 1 seed when it comes to the tournament. At least in that top 16, you may not be a top 8 seed, but you're going to be a one in the top 16 anyway. So, what's your thoughts on it, DMAC, on Mississippi State?
Yeah, I I have a freshman who I think is a dark horse to get some playing time in the outfield, and that's Jacob Parker. He's a pretty physical guy at 6'3", 220, and has the offense ready to go for SEC baseball. His twin brother JoJo was drafted as the 8th pick in the draft. Another freshman that I like a lot is Parker Rhodes, who's another pitcher. He's in the low to mid 90s. Doesn't quite have what Jack Bauer has at the 100 plus mile per hour range. Yeah, I have a few more questions about their offensive staff. Blake Beavis, the transfer from Ball State, hit 301 there with 18 home runs, struck out about 26% of the time. So I want to see how that translates to the SEC. I think the power's there. I just want to see how that really translates. Because this is a team that's going to have one, two, three, four, five, essentially six new position starters on the everyday roster. I do like their pitching staff. McPherson struck out 56 in 39 innings last year. So he's a strikeout guy who's going to be moving from a bullpen role to their Friday night role. Valanis from Virginia, he's followed his coach to Mississippi State and, started 12 games last year. So I like a lot of pieces of this team, but I kind of have the similar questions. How quick can they gel and play together? They do have, I think, from a schedule standpoint, they might have a little bit of a favorable schedule if I remember in SEC play. So they
Yeah, they
miss,
do. Go ahead.
yeah, they miss Florida, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. On the road, they do go to Arkansas, Texas, and Texas A&M, and then also South Carolina and Ole Miss on the road. But they get to host Vandy, Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, and Auburn. So that home matchup is pretty favorable for them with how much of an impact that stadium and fans play into it. They've got a pretty favorable home slate as far as getting quality teams at home instead of on the road.
Yeah, and if you look at their non-conference schedule, they have a pretty favorable non-conference schedule too. They do, like most teams on the weekends. Most teams have one weekend in their non-con that they play in some event, and they are playing in an Amergy Bank College Baseball Series. Where they play Arizona State, Virginia Tech, UCLA, who is preseason number one, in a weekend. But outside of that, the rest of their non-con, Austin P, Delaware, Hofstra, a lot of teams that they should beat. So if they, worst case scenario, they get one game on that weekend trip, then they'd still be solid. But if they get two games if they were to win two out of Arizona State, Virginia Tech, UCLA, then that would make most of their non-conference games wins, put them in a good place once they get in the conference. So they play Tulane and Southern Miss, but those are games. They play Tulane in Biloxi, and they play Southern Miss, I believe it, in Hattiesburg. So that could be tough. Southern Miss is a good team, so that'll be another tough game too. But for the most part, I think their schedule is one that they can navigate. Last year they were 15-15 in the league, 36-23. I just would expect their league record to be more around 18-12 and maybe get to 40 wins um, as a whole uh, this year going into the NCAA tournament. So again, I like this state team. I like the coach. I think Connor's a very good coach. He coached under Maneri for a lot of years before he became a head coach. So I like him.
Yeah, I think they've got from a potential standpoint of things clicking. Yeah, they could be, a 17 to 20 win team. I would probably put the floor at like 16 conference wins. But if things really go right and they get what they expect out of the hitters and pitchers, I mean, you'd be looking at a 20-10, 21-9 team. I know expectations, especially from a preseason ranking, has them number three most places, between that 3 and 5 range. So yeah, expectations are extremely high in Stark Vegas again this year, and yeah, we will see how high they can climb this season.
One thing you have to remember when it comes to the SEC record, you can finish 18-12 in the SEC, 17-13 in the SEC, and you can win a national championship. LSU's won two of the last three national championships with Jay Johnson and doing a great job. Jay Johnson's not won the SEC yet, though, and that's not a knock on him at all. It's just how tough the conference is. And you reference schedule. Who you play in your SEC schedule makes a huge difference too. If you get one of those bottom two teams that you play and you don't play all your top teams, it's a huge difference. So the SEC schedule to me gets you ready for the NCAA tournament and gets you battle tested for those type of things. Uh, Again, to me, it's not a telltale. Many years, whoever wins the SEC is not the team that goes the furthest as far as once the NCAA tournament gets started.
Yeah, you just really want to navigate through. Really, the best place to be is somewhere between 2 and 6 going into the
Yes,
SEC baseball tournament. You know, I would make a guess now that there will probably be 6 to 8 SEC teams that host a regional this year. Um, not all, obviously not all national seeds, but you'll probably have 4 national seeds and then 2 to 4 in that 9 to 16 range. So you'll really just finish top 6 in the SEC, guarantee yourself a regional, and get ready for postseason baseball.
absolutely. I mean, they had top five in the top eight last year. So yeah, I think six. If you finish in the top six, you're going to be one of the 16 number one seeds once it gets to the NCAA tournament. Easy.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's a wrap on Mississippi State baseball, and we will have more previews coming this week. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow. We'll see you soon.